An Orleans criminal district court judge slated to lose his position sues the governor and other officials.
Judge John Fuller says lawmakers did not have enough votes to cut 3 judicial seats. Fuller says lawmakers needed supermajorities in both the House and the state Senate, but did not have one in the state House. Fuller and his attorney want an injunction and ask a state judge to nullify Act 748. We have reached out to the governor's office for a response.